While at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, Roqoo Depot had the chance to interview Star Wars author Christie Golden. We talked to her about her new upcoming book, Dark Disciple, as well as some of her non-Star Wars titles, including Star Trek, Fable, Instrument of Fate, and World of Warcraft. Hi Christie, I'm Steven with Roqoo Depot.
Hello.
Your next book is Dark Disciple, which will be out in July and will be starring Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos. Up until this point, you've written all post-Return of the Jedi books, and this one will be during the Clone Wars. Did you have to do a lot of research and catching up with the Clone Wars episodes and the comics?
Yes, I wasn't familiar with them at all, and I had heard really good things about them, but it just hadn't been something that I had invested the time in watching at that point. And the nice thing about it is that it's really all self-contained. There's a finite number of episodes, and I started watching it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. What a great show. And so I've seen every episode, and some of them more than once.
Now, you've mentioned that the book will be based off 8 the Clone Wars scripts.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of material to go off of. How much of the scripts wound up in the book?
Most of them, honestly. Most of the events of the scripts did end up in the book. What a good novelization should do, in my opinion, is be true to the source material and be as complete as is reasonably possible, and then be able to expand on it. You can get into someone's point of view, you can have extra scenes, you can bring extra little resonances. A few things were changed because they would work more effectively in this medium in a different way, but it was great to have the source material because it was very, very solid.
Did some of the dialogue make it in as well?
Almost all of it.
How was writing Dark Disciple different from a book like Ascension?
Well, Ascension, that whole experience was pretty amazing, but very challenging to write 3 books in a 9-book series with 2 other authors and be the middle book each time. So you always had a baton at either end. So this was much more, as I said, self-contained. It had a clear story arc, and it was just the one project, and the only people I had to work with were myself and, the Lucasfilm and the Del Rey people, and there was not trying to coordinate with another creative party who was also doing his thing. So it was a little easier in that respect.
And was it different working with the story group on this one and compared to the other one?
Yeah, we have, the chain of command is very narrow, and it's very precise. So yeah, it did have to get cleared through more people now. But the nice thing about it is that when it's okayed, it's okayed. There's no going back and say, well, maybe someone else has this thing. It's like, there it is. It's very clear cut. And so that actually really does help keep things on track.
While there is a divide by canon now, is there a similarity to Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos pairing to that of, Vistara Kai and Ben Skywalker?
The difference, I would say, is it seems similar on the surface. You think, oh, well, it's just going to be like this. And it's not, because they're all such strong individual characters. Ben isn't Quinlan, and Vistara isn't Ventress, although it sounds similar, doesn't it? But they are definitely their own people with their own experiences. And so while I think there may be that touchstone of familiarity, I don't think you're going to see it play out in exactly the same way.
This being your 4th Star Wars novel, do you find yourself more comfortable at this point writing in the galaxy far, far away?
I do. It was really kind of trial by fire, because I had not kept up with the EU, and there was so much, there's so much to catch up on. This time, because of the new direction, there is less material that I have to know solidly. Most of what I had to worry about was contained within the Clone Wars series, and once I had that, I had everything I needed to do. So yes, I did find it easier.
Switching gears a little bit, I recently read John Jackson Miller's new Star Trek novel, Takedown, and this got me into reading more Star Trek. So actually on the flight out, I read your novel, The Murdered Son.
Oh, my very first Voyager book.
how'd you go about getting into Star Trek novels?
Well, the idea was brought to me, that was very early on in my career. That was, I think, my fourth or fifth book. I'm staring down 50 right now. But my agent was approached by Pocket Books, and what I did was I submitted a few ideas for the Voyager line. I did get to read I got to read both the first script and the final script, because I was involved very early on and with the wrap-up, so that was pretty cool. But they approached me, I had some ideas, and we kind of went back and forth until we found one that we were all excited about.
Now, if my count is correct, you did 15 Star Trek novels. What's it like getting to contribute that much to a franchise?
It's wonderful. You really do feel like it's a family. You really do have a sense of connection and involvement with something. And while Star Wars was huge for me when I was 13, Star Trek beat it by 3 years. It was the very first science fiction I was ever exposed to when I was 10. So both of these franchises have a very special place in my heart.
How do you differentiate between the two franchises?
I think they're very different. One is a little cooler and more orderly, a sort of military that we recognize, more technologically precise, scientifically precise. Star Wars, I remember once, many years ago, when it was on TV, and there was a TV guide with that little one-sentence description, and it says, a princess, a farm boy, and a rogue battle evil empire. And I said, that sounds like a fantasy novel more than a science fiction movie. And so Star Wars has more of the adventurous and, with the Force, kind of a more magical, mystical aspect to it. And I think it's more fun, and Star Trek is a little more serious.
As a fan of the Fable video games, I had to pick up your novel, Fable, Edge of the World. What was it like working on that project?
That was a lot of fun. I worked very well with people from the game, and I enjoyed the game a lot. And, of course, with so many wonderful voice actors, it's really easy to get the voices and characterizations in your head. So it was really, I loved writing it. It was just a lot of fun, you know. The John Cleese voice and all that. It was lovely.
One thing that really impressed me with that story is just how well the elements of the game wove with the believability of the story. How did you manage to immerse yourself in the world of Fable?
I did not play it. I'm not a player, but I did sit and have a friend play through it with me. And so just being in the world and paying attention to it and kind of figuring what its tone is, you know, is it lighthearted, is it serious, things like that. I'm blessed with an ear, and I think that's why I do so well with media work, is I can really kind of catch something, understand it, and then bring it forth in a new medium.
Fable isn't the only video game franchise you've done. Another big one is World of Warcraft. In fact, one of my favorite novels from that series is Lord of the Clans. I really loved how you took an orc and made him a good guy. What was your inspiration for Thrall?
Well, Thrall came to me completely conceived. The basis for Lord of the Clans was a game that Blizzard had been developing, and then they decided it wasn't up to their standards, as Blizzard is wont to do. But they really loved the story, and they wanted to see it in another form. So the basics of the story were all there. I did introduce a few things, because when you do a novelization, you have to adapt it to another medium. I introduced the character of Taratha. She's my creation. I introduced Sergeant and a few other things, and I went back and forth with Chris Metzen about what would work. What works well in a game to play and experience does not necessarily make for exciting reading, and vice versa. So we worked together to determine what was appropriate for the book and what to maybe skim over or fold into another incident.
There's one more book I wanted to touch on, because I think it's perhaps one of the best books you've ever done, and that's Instrument of Fate.
Oh, bless you.
It's a very emotional story, and I was wondering what you drew upon when making that book.
Instrument of Fate was interesting. I kind of do the Stephen King. He says he has a way of thinking about books, and it's basically the character shows up and then just kind of starts revealing things about himself or herself. And that's what happened with me. Gillian showed up. And I'm like, okay, so there's this girl, and, you know, what's her story? And I'm like, oh, she's scared. Why is she scared? someone's after her. I'm like, ah, okay. Why? She doesn't know. And I was like, well, what could it be? And then you just start kind of asking questions about this character, and they start revealing their story to you. And I'm so strongly character-based, it's a great way for me to work.
Now, how did the music element to it come about?
Well, I'm a singer-songwriter, and not professionally, it's just something I enjoy doing. And so music has always been important to me, and I love song lyrics. And I wanted to weave some of that in with the storyline and just be able to exercise those talents as well.
I liked how it opened with the song and how it kind of summed up the story.
Thank you.
You stay pretty busy with writing. Aside from Dark Disciple, are there any more books fans can look forward to, or recent releases?
Well, Dark Disciple is the only one I can talk about right now.
Will there be any more books this year, though? Any franchise?
This year? No.
Okay.
I can say that much.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to our interview with Star Wars author Christie Golden. For more Star Wars interviews, be sure to check out RoqooDepot.com.